What's up, boys and girls? This is Two Perfect Gentlemen. More specifically, I'm the Promise.
And I'm Dominion. And today we're going to be talking to you guys about the Ouya, which was just launched last week, I think. It's not actually launched, but they said that they were going to be bringing that out. So we're just going to talk about some of the things that we like about it. And I haven't really found anything that I don't like about it.
Oh, that's cool, because I found a lot of stuff I don't like about it.
Okay,
So,
what you got?
awesome. Well, I mean, let's just get the nitty-gritty out of the way. I mean, as a Kickstarter project, it's pretty groundbreaking. I mean, they asked for 950,000, and as of right now, they are at $4,947,038. So with 23 days to go. So they've almost pentupled their goal with less than a month to go. So that's in terms of Kickstarter, that's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Um, and it looks like they've got, I think they set aside an initial 20,000 slots for anyone who donated $100 or more to be guaranteed a system. And I think out of that, they've got 2,000 slots left.
Hmm.
So about 18,000 people are going to be getting an Ouya at launch,
Yeah, I think
which
that's a
is
really
pretty
cool
cool.
concept.
Pretty cool, yeah. It's you're pretty much ushering in donations and guaranteeing people a system day one, which is really concise. I like that.
Hmm.
It's really cool. And I mean, um, okay, so let's talk about specs, and then we can get to the first part of what I don't like.
Okay.
So, specification wise, it's rocking a Tegra 3 quad core processor. Now, quad core processor sounds cool, but if you know what a Tegra 3 is, that is where my first problem lies. That's the same processor I have on my phone.
Hmm.
So, it's not going to be rocking the same processing power as, let's say, a 360 or a PlayStation 3, which is bad news considering that within 2 years we're going to have the next generation of home consoles anyway. So I mean, I guess they had to go with that processor to keep it cheap. I don't even think we said it's going to be. Well, I did sort of. It's $99. It will be $99 when it comes out.
Yeah.
So they're obviously working with a budget here. So I guess that's a sacrifice they had to make. I don't know. So it's not going to have diesel processing power. It does have 1 gig of RAM, which is double the current generation of systems. It's looking like it's going to have 8 gigs of internal flash storage. Your typical HDMI connections, which support up to 1080p, Wi-Fi, BGN, blah, 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 Bluetooth, one USB port. So I don't really know what you use that for. Usually you got two, so you got one of them on that. And then what do we got? We got the controller, and the controller is actually kind of cool. And actually, the controller is my favorite part of the whole deal because it's a fairly standard two analog stick, D-pad, 8 buttons, system button,
Hmm.
but it has a touchpad on it, which is a neat touch. I don't know how they're going to implement it, but it's new,
Yeah.
so I like that. And lastly, it runs on Android 4.0 for those of you who know that's ice cream sandwich.
Ice cream sandwich. Um,
Sandwich.
I mean, for the most part, uh, I think what the Ouya is trying to do is they're trying to revolutionize the way that gaming is portrayed. So right now, everybody's trying to go to phones, right? So there's a lot of developers out there that are taking their applications or their games and they're putting them as games on the iPhone, the Windows Phone, so on and so forth. And even though that this thing's only rocking a Tegra 3 quad core, we could still see some pretty good games out of it. I know for a fact that like Dungeon Defenders runs exactly the same as it does on my PC on my phone. So, with the exception of the controls, obviously. And as far as the controller goes, the touchpad sounds cool. I don't know that it's going to be that good, to be honest. It
I'll
sounds
tell
like
I'll
they're
tell you what, dude. If they is if nothing else, if they use the touchpad for like menus, I will love them forever. Because I think the touchpad can make menu navigation so much fucking easier than using the directional pad of the analog stick.
well, that's true, but it's not going to beat out the Kinect with the hand gestures.
Well, yeah, but you know the Kinect costs twice as much as the Ouya by itself.
Oh, that's true.
So
That's
you
true.
know I'll take what you can get.
Yeah. Um, I am impressed by the fact that it's got HDMI. Although HDMI is kind of the new standard, I didn't think that a startup company would be able to implement something in such a small package. Because if I'm not mistaken, this Ouya is going to be extremely small in comparison to the PS3 and the
Well,
Xbox
judging by the
360.
picture, dude, it looks. I mean, it's a shitty picture, but it looks slightly bigger than the controller. And the controller's pretty much standard size, around the size of a 360 controller. It looks like, you know, I mean, area-wise, it's obviously more, but I mean, if you stood the controller on its end, it's about as tall as the Ouya, so it's really small.
Yeah, that's good.
It is really small. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, it'll make it easier for us to transport it back and forth from MLG.
Yeah, absolutely,
the
absolutely.
the other cool things, the other cool aspects about this is that we're also going to be able to demos have to happen on this thing. Like we can't, companies can't just come out and say, "Hey, we're going to put this game out," but guess what? You can't see the demo for it. Um, they're completely eliminating that. They're saying that if you want to put your game on the Ouya, you have to put out a demo with it. There's no questions about it. When you start at first, it's free to play. Like everything, all games are free to play, uh, except for the fact that if you do decide to add money to it, like you want people to start paying, I believe they take 30% of the cut as of the proceeds. So I think that the business model for this is really really good. Um,
Mhm.
it works a lot like the iOS App Store, I think. You know, when you start charging people for your applications, Apple gets a cut. And, you know, Apple's not dying anytime soon. Well, we'll save that for another discussion. But, um, and another really cool feature is that it's hackable.
Yeah, right out of the box. It's pretty much you can root it. I believe some of them will even come rooted, but the standard one you can root right out of the box and hack right out of the box, and they're making a pretty big deal about that aspect of it. You know, saying pretty much that it opens with standard screws, so hardware hackers can create their own peripherals and connect it via the USB or the Bluetooth. Um, See, it's moddable both software and hardware wise, which is pretty cool, I guess. I mean, I I, I kind of see it if it does take off. I see it becoming having the potential to become kind of like a. It's a good thing to equate it to. Like everyone has their own, like everyone's Ouya is different than everyone else's.
Yeah, it's got
Like
a uniqueness to it.
yours might have, a beefed up, let's say hard drive, or maybe, fuck it, maybe you put a better processor in it, or someone might have put more memory, or someone else, might have more USB hookups, like whatever it may be. I mean, it seems like it's malleable enough for everyone's Ouya could genuinely be your own.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of modding and hacking. But I mean, that's where another one of my problems lies, and that's because it's so open source. I don't see it picking up AAA online titles.
That's true.
And let's face it, online gaming is a huge part of the industry as it is.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, with the format being as open source as it is, you can pretty much kiss AAA titles like, like Ever running StarCraft or Call of Duty or a Battlefield or anything like that on the console because there'll be no way to monitor the online interactions. It'll just be a complete hack fest. So I mean, there's a whole genre of games that I feel are not going to make it to the Ouya just because of how open source it is and how hard it'll be to police and any type of online interaction.
That's very true.
Um, so I mean that's and kind of along that same vein, no one's really committed to the Ouya yet. Uh, like really, the only major company right now that's completely on board and promising to give support is Mojang. So like they have Minecraft.
Hmm.
That's about it. And I mean, when they show you screenshots of like the main splash page of the console, you see Minecraft, you see Shadowgun, Dead Trigger, Cannonball. And like beyond Minecraft, like those games aren't going to sell a system at all. Um, Minecraft might. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go and how different it might or may not be than the 360 version. But I mean, for right now, they don't really have any development backing, and most of the developers have said that they're not going to back the Ouya until it launches and until they see what it's capable of and what kind of reception it gets.
Sure. And
So, they're kind of, when it launches, it's going to be launching on a lot of potential, but
right.
it's up in the air whether that potential is going to be realized or not.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think would be really cool for Ouya to do, I forget what their or who their CEO is right off the top of my head, um, but her whole goal is to bring console gaming back, and she feels like everybody's trying to move to the PC. And you mentioned this earlier in your daily newscast that yes, that is very true. And I think everybody knows it. And bringing back the customizable options to upgrade your Ouya to make it a more established uh, console is, I think, a really interesting idea. I agree with you in that a lot of the bigger AAA titles probably won't implement on to the Ouya or transfer their games over simply because of the fact that they won't be able to police it, like you said. Um, but you would think that some of these developers would ask Ouya if they could get their hands on the system so that they can try to test some of their games out. There's a lot of people out there right now that are able to write in Android code. There's kids that are 13 years old that are able to do it. So I don't see any reason why they can't pick one programmer out of the group, or just a small group of guys, and have them transfer some of their games over and try to play it on the Ouya to see what they can do with it. I could also see them locking down the files on the Ouya, which would be an interesting concept. Or since it only has 8 gigs of internal flash storage, I could
Yeah.
also see this being completely cloud. So all of your games would be playable online, and you would have to play them out on the cloud. And because of that, you wouldn't be able to manipulate the files that you're playing with.
Yeah, but I
Now,
mean that is fine and dandy, but that eliminates the whole purpose of the console.
yeah, yeah, I'll agree to that.
It's really it's a catch-22. It's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like you can do what you said, which is, I'm not saying it's a bad. I think it's a really smart idea. But then again, it goes against the principle of the console. So then everyone who was riding its dick is now up in arms because ooh, they're policing us. The man's keeping us down. That typical bullshit attitude. So I mean that's a major kink, in that line of thinking.
Yeah, and then you got to think about the bandwidth problems, and you got to think about other things. When you got 2 or 3 people in the house that are uh, keen on downloads and playing games online, it gets really frustrating. I can say
Yeah.
that firsthand. That me and my brother, if he's downloading something, I take an internet hit or a broadband hit, bandwidth, and so does he, vice versa.
No.
So that's going to be a big issue. I think that's probably something that a lot of people are going to have to address. Um, Now, the only good thing that I can say about the Ouya in that regard is that since it is running off of just 8 gigs of internal flash, uh, this is the only way that it's going to go, and I think that everybody is trying to do that. During E3, Xbox said that they were going to try to, or they have implemented. I saw it, the Windows TV with the Xbox and the Windows Phone, where you can take and move your shit from one place to
From
another
one
and
to the
bring it
other,
back.
yeah.
And that's a really cool concept. I think I'm kind of curious as to how they, being a technical person, I'm curious as to how they plan on having the resources for the 3 million people or whatever that are playing the Xbox are going to do that, and still be able to save their games and shit up on the cloud.
Hmm.
But the same thing with the Ouya. Like, these guys are brand new. How in the hell are they going to have the resources to hold their games and save your games on their servers?
Well, I mean, they haven't. You got to remember, although the whole idea of this being cloud-based is just a theory. They haven't even come out and said that. Uh, and the fact that it is completely moddable means that 8 gigs of internal memory isn't necessarily an issue. All you got to do is patch in like an actual SSD,
Sure.
and now your space problem is fixed. Um, and like I feel like that's a large part of the ideology of this console is that you know you can surpass most of its limitations, with like some good old-fashioned DIY handiwork, which is fine, but like it really fucks up game development because developers don't have a flat stable base
Mhm.
to develop on. I mean, you really, and like that's a really shitty part of this concept is that like if a developer does decide to develop a game from scratch for this system, they've got to develop on the bottom line. They don't have a choice. They can't just speculate that 75% of the people have
Upgraded their systems.
these upgraded specs, so it should be okay. They can't. They have to run with that Tegra 3, 1 gig of RAM, 8 gig of memory baseline.
Yeah.
So like all the people who have upgraded their Ouyas, they're just sitting there with their dick in their hands because like they're not taking advantage of
Right.
it. And it's really unfortunate because pretty much, not pretty much, really every Ouya that comes out is a dev kit. Like every console is a dev kit.
Yeah.
You can make games on it.
Yeah.
You don't have to, and that's the cool thing is you don't have to purchase a license or an expensive SDK. It is a dev kit and it's built on Droid, so Droid developers already know how it operates. But that being said, again, they still have that bottom line to work with. And it brings to mind, back when the Wii was still a fairly large contender,
Hmm.
and there were triple platform games coming out, and how much worse off the Wii versions of the game were than the PS3 or the Xbox.
Yeah.
And it was strictly due to the hardware limitations of the Wii. It was innovative as shit, which is fine, but I mean, if it looks and plays like garbage, there's nothing you can really do with your wiggle waggle controllers to make that better.
Right.
And I foresee the same problems happening with the Ouya, where if it does begin to pick up AAA developers, it's not necessarily going to get AAA titles.
Yeah.
And like I said, especially with the next generation of home consoles coming out within the next 2 years, you know, it's going to be really shitty to have, a game running on the next iteration of the Xbox using the Unreal 4 engine and then porting it to the Ouya and it's running on, you know, sub 360 quality hardware.
Right.
It, it can't be that appealing. It can't be, it can't be something that a gamer's going to look at and be like, well, I want that version of it because I like the system it's on. You're going to go with the Xbox 720 version because it's that much better.
Right.
And it's not just graphics, it's not just graphics. It's going to have, better depth, better gameplay because they can do more with it. They have more resources at their fingertips.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as it's all concerned, I'm still going to have to lean towards the fact that I think that everything's going to be going online. I also have to say that even if Ouya doesn't decide to host stuff on their own servers, there's going to be people out there. You know how we got the World of Warcraft private servers?
Yeah.
Same basic concept. People are going to be able to put in a couple of pieces of code into the game, and it patches them through instead of to the developer server. It patches through to a person server, and they'll be able to play that way as well. Therefore, taking the load off of the developer servers as well. I'm going to have to agree with you. I think that there's such a solid foothold with the other three. With the other three consoles, that I don't think anybody's really going to want to facilitate another one, just because it's new, but it's not that new. It's still got you're still fucking around with a controller, you're still fucking around with a console, it's still hooked up to your TV. It's all the same. Why not just keep using the same stuff? And I think the only people that are really going to get this is maybe folks like Valve with the Steam, and like you said, what was it, Gainjo?
Mojang.
Mojang, thank you.
Mojang, yeah.
Mojang, they get it. I mean, my brother's upstairs right now playing a hacked version of Minecraft, and it's okay. Like, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, in that respect, I'm going to have to give it to these folks. Just like the Android phone, though, I probably won't play it because with the Android phone, it's fully customizable. Same thing with the Ouya. When I get off of work and I come home, I don't want to sit down and fucking type out some code to get something to work or alter my router settings. I get really tired of that. I have to do it already with the Xbox and the PS3 with the port forwarding and the DMZs and all that shit. I don't really care. I work on computers all day. I don't want to come home and work on computers. So, that being said, I have an iPhone. There's a reason for that. I would go to a Windows phone before I'd go to an Android phone at this point. So, all that said, I think the Ouya has the same thing going for it, and if it works for them, fantastic. If they have host side gaming where I can hook up to the internet and play on their servers, I'll totally do that too. As long as their network can handle it. If it's like PSN, they can go fuck off. I'm not going to play it anymore. I'll probably return it within the first 30 days. But I mean that's my take on the whole hackable. And I really do think it's going for a cloud-based hosting service, because that's the only way that I can see. I mean, aside from you going out buying yourself an SSD, hooking it up, or getting an SSD that's already encased and external and plugging it into that USB 2.0 slot, that is the only way that I can see this working.
I agree with most of what you said, and in terms of going up against the Xbox and the PS3, like the timing is both good and bad. It's bad because if this came out further away from the next generation of consoles, it would have been better because it didn't have that looming um y- that looming cliff coming towards it that it can't get up. However, I think that releasing it this late in the console's lifespan is a good thing because, like I was saying earlier in my news rundown, um, a lot of people are migrating to PC games because they're tired of the stagnation of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 and the current generation of consoles.
Of course.
Um, Nothing new is happening, and they've pretty much hit their limit with what it can do. Like I just picked up Skyrim on the Steam sale, and the graphical differences between the PC version that I'm running on my laptop and the Xbox 360 version are like night and day.
Right.
So I mean, like the stagnation of the current generation of consoles is definitely going to play in the Ouya's favor because people want something new. There's a reason why Minecraft on the 360 is one of the most played live games right now, and
Right.
it looks like shit. It's different. The Ouya is different. That's going to play to its own strengths in terms of going up against powerhouses like Sony and Microsoft. And let's face it, I'm rooting for the Ouya because I do not like to see the establishment be established. If the Ouya can put a chink in that armor, and if the Ouya can spark, a kind of creative revolution, awesome. Because I fuck the establishment. I don't like it. It
Yeah.
it it breeds nothing. It breeds stagnation and it breeds boredom. So if the Ouya can succeed in any margin, I'm totally behind it. You know, I still have my reservations about it, but I am rooting for it, and I hope that it can make some headway. And like I said, at this point in the current console's lifespan, it it has a fairly decent chance of making headway. But again, it's how many people really want to play a slightly better looking version of Angry Birds on your television.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not necessarily what the Ouya is going to have, but I can guarantee you that that's the stigma that's going to be attached to it, where it's running Ice Cream Sandwich. So how good can the games be? And with the current lack of development backing, we're not going to find out how good the games can be until it succeeds, in, I would say, marginal fashion. But I mean, I guess it's up to the developers' whim, so it's kind of like, to succeed you need the good titles. To get the good titles you need to succeed. It's a big circle jerk.
Yeah. And it's like that for all established industries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with IT, that's why I fucking hate it now. Um, you know, uh, Nothing I do is going to ever better me because they just make me do whatever they want me to do. Um, Now, the one thing that I do think that the Ouya has over the other consoles, and this will be really big for you StarCraft watchers out there and LOL watchers on Twitch, it does have Twitch capabilities, so you can sit down and watch it on your TV rather than having to sit at your computer all the time in your computer chair. You can actually lay down on the couch and watch Stefano go up against Liquid Hero. Um, so that aspect for me is going to be really cool, I guess, because I sit at the computer all the time anyway. Unless it incorporates Skype with it, I doubt very seriously that I'll buy it. I mean, because for me, like sitting down on the couch and talking to my friends across the internet while we watch the same stream is pretty fucking hardcore, and I love every minute of it. And to hear us all cheer over Skype, when Liquid Hero does some amazing drops, it makes the experience that much better. Since I can't be with them on their couch watching it. We can still hang out. Um, so and it might eventually come down to the fact that it'll work on the Ouya, just because you're going to have third-party developers all over the place creating like Skypes and stuff like that. I feel like the marketplace for the Ouya might be overrun, just like the one for the Android is, because there's
Well,
so many
it's
developers.
essentially the same marketplace. Um,
Yeah, I can
because
see
I
that.
mean they pretty much said verbatim that the only reason you can watch Twitch on the Ouya is because they imported the Twitch app from the Android marketplace.
Okay, so you're going to be able to play the same apps.
It's the same app. So it's pretty much any app that's on the the what the fuck is it called now? I don't even know what the name of my own goddamn marketplace is. What is it called? Google Play or some bullshit? The Play Store, whatever's in the Play Store, you know, has the potential of being an app on the Ouya. It's just got to get converted. I would assume much like how, iOS apps get converted for like the iPad or
Right.
something like that.
Uh, okay, so that's sort of cool, I guess. I don't know. Like, I've never been a fan of the Android marketplace at all. It's always been too cluttered with shit. That's why I prefer the iOS,
Yeah, but you know
the
what,
Apple
dude?
Store.
Apple's fucking stores is more cluttered with shit than
Well, sort of. It's an organized mess.
Android.
Like I don't know how else to explain it other than that. I mean, I feel like now I do have a Droid tab, and I do like what they've done with the marketplace. It has changed a lot since the previous time before Ice Cream Sandwich. I think Ice Cream Sandwich really opened up the door for Android. Um, but with the Ouya, I think that we're going to see the same presentations that we saw the first time when it was Apple against the Android, um, where everybody started going and flooding the Android market, and then they were able to get other distributors, um, like Nokia and other HTC, and have them start creating better and better phones. And now you have this huge, massive war between the different developers. Um, and I think we might see something similar with the fact that the Ouya is so customizable that you might actually have multiple different variations of the Ouya, which is something that I hadn't even considered until just now. You know, since it's not really going to be patented, I guess it's completely free.
Well, that's kind of what I meant when I was saying that everyone's Ouya has the potential to be different.
Yeah, yeah, but I was
Yeah.
thinking on an individual basis. I wasn't thinking on a mass market production basis. I wasn't thinking. I was thinking inside the box, not outside the box. Whenever you said that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't really thinking outside the so-called box either, but I mean, this very well could be a prototype for a much larger scale and better equipped, you know, Ouya console.
Sure. Yep.
I mean, because they could effectively use this launch as just a giant beta test
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
just pull in data and figure out, what they can add, what they can drop, what they can tweak, and then who's to say that next year or the year after that they don't release like the Uyo, and which is like heads and tails better than the Ouya and could be a viable competitor for current AAA titles. I think the bottom line right now, honestly, is that it's too early to tell.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Um,
It really is. I mean, it hasn't even gone into fucking production yet. It hasn't even technically it hasn't even been funded. It still has 23 days before it even has any money.
yeah, that's true. So we're not even going to see any updates until then.
Yeah.
Um, well, I mean the one thing that really kills me about the Ouya is that there are so many people out there that are so obsessed with their Droid phones. that they think that this is going to be amazing. And another thing that this also brings up, I have to ask myself, what is Apple going to do? Like, if there's an Android phone and there's an Android tablet and there's an Android, I think there was talk about an Android operating system at some point, and there's an Android uh, gaming console. Now, what's Apple going to do? Like, in order to keep up with the competitor, they are going to have to try to come up with something. Or they'll do like Microsoft did many years ago and try not to come up with um, a competition for it because they see that the competition's already so large. Um, and to be quite honest with you, I really hope that Apple doesn't step in on this because whatever game system they decide to make is going to be garbage, and it's going to cost you fucking $8,000 just for you to buy it, because it'll have its own screen and I don't know. Um,
It, I don't see Apple really getting involved because bottom line is that the Ouya isn't made by Google. It's made by a bunch of individual people um, using Android as their basis, but it's not like Google decided we're gonna make a console, this is what it is, and we're gonna market it. Like it's not something that someone who's a direct competitor to Apple is producing. So in terms of that, I really don't think Apple A has anything to worry about, or B needs to get involved. And if they do feel threatened by the Ouya for any reason, um, I mean, really, they should just keep doing what they're doing. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's really going to affect them in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the niche they have is on proprietary devices. It's on the iPhone and the iPad, and like people aren't going to ditch their iPhones and iPads for Ouyas.
sure.
So I mean, they don't need to do anything. They just need to keep shilling out their stuff in the iOS, and people will keep buying it. It's not like nothing's going to change on Apple's end just because the Ouya is successful. Um, if it was made by Google and backed by Google and funded by Google and promoted by Google, then it might be a different story. But the fact of the matter is, it's not. So I really don't see them getting involved. And like you said, if they do, I don't necessarily think that an Apple gaming console would be bad. I think it would actually be very good. I just do think it would be horribly overpriced and would ultimately be doomed to failure because of that.
Right.
I mean, look at the Sega Saturn. It was born dead. So, yeah, I don't particularly foresee Apple getting involved or taking a stance. Especially just because of the fact that all the games for the Ouya will be free to play.
Right.
I think that eliminates. So, like, I think that eliminates a lot of a sense of threat for most of the competition. That all the games are free to play, because that just gives you a much larger setup to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not pulling in the money from the microtransactions and like the full game purchases, then that's just money you don't have. Whereas with an Xbox or a PS3, you have to buy the game. So if you're playing on their system, you've already paid them money. So I mean, that aspect alone is, like I said, is I think going to remove a lot of the threat level towards other competition in the industry. But like I said, it also gives the Ouya an even bigger hurdle to jump over, because you're going to need some income. Like it's in their idyllic future, like they just have this console that's free to play, everyone loves it and buys it and has a great time, and everything's free. But that's not how the world works. That's not how business works. That's not how you're going to be successful. Like they still need to make money. So they're really going to need, if they do go with like a Team Fortress or a League of Legends model, they're going to need those microtransactions, and they're going to need those full game purchases from the demos that you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or I guess they could go with subscription fees for games, but that's going to be a little hard to pull off with what I perceive the quality of the games to be. If they can pull a really good-looking, good-playing game out of their ass, I can see a subscription model working. But with what they're going to be launching with, no way in hell someone's going to pay a subscription to play games in this thing. Like one of their screenshots is, from what I can gather, a man running on a steel girder with seagulls attacking him. No one's going to pay a subscription fee to, play Seagull Dodger 2012. People will pay a subscription fee, though, for, let's say, monthly updates on, maybe an Ouya-based League of Legends type game or something. Like something like that could definitely work. The fact of the matter is they need to figure out how they're going to be pulling in their income, because I know they're in this honeymoon phase where they're like, oh my God, I have $5 million of a $1 million budget, and this is happening, and I'm sure they're all, jizz and rainbows right now, but you still need to look past that and figure out what the fuck you're going to do once you actually get these consoles out in the market.
Yeah, they're looking good at the now, but not the later.
Right, and that's the thing though, is they're not actually looking bad, but they're not looking good. They're not. They're just very up in the air, and they just need to cement. Like I pray to God that they just cement a system that they can implement that'll not guarantee, but will pull in revenue, because that's what they need to keep going. Because like I said, this can be excellent if it's the beginning of something greater.
Right.
It's not going to be excellent if it stays what it is. So if they can build on this and it can grow and they can make it into something, much, much grander, that's how they're ultimately going to succeed.
Right.
They're not going to succeed on a strictly free-to-play model backed by, Mojang and Jordan Mechner, the creator of Karateka, which is a 35-year-old Nintendo karate game. It's just not going to work.
Right. Well, the one thing that I would like to bring up, since we're, 15 minutes from ending, is the fact that a lot of things nowadays are becoming hackable. And the more and more that we come up with free-to-play hackable stuff where 12 and 13-year-old kids are able to do this and that, and we got the government breathing down our necks, and we got the corporations that are running the government that's breathing down our necks. This has always just been kind of a fantasy for me, I guess. I think we're turning towards the Cowboy Bebop future. Like, I really think that everything, like, for instance, myself, I would much rather quit my job and do something on my own, or in this case with you, than to fucking stay there and help them fund a government that is completely corrupt and screwing me in the asshole.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that being said, going back to the hackable stuff, I think that the more of these consoles and these types of games are coming out, where we're able to manipulate and control things ourselves, the more that we're going to get into a much more technologically advanced society that is able to hack stuff. And, especially now that we've quit funding NASA, we've got I forget which studio, but there's a studio or some guy that actually created his own space pod, and for 250 grand you can take a ride up into outer space and back down. Like that, all of these things playing together is to me like coming into this molding of a very I'm going to say not so bright future, where everybody is uh, working for themselves, and then you've got the mindless military drones that are fighting for the empire or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Is that something that you could possibly see for our future, or what?
I have no idea what this has to do with Ouya.
It has nothing to do with the Ouya.
Fair
But
enough.
we've got 15 minutes left, and fuck it.
Okay. All right. Huh. I don't have any notes on possible hackable space military drone empire futures, although it sounds like a great sci-fi movie. Um, is it possible? Sure, I guess if we can manage to make it that far. Um, you know, it's really just dependent on us. Like I mean, like you said, we stopped funding NASA, so I mean, we didn't stop funding NASA. We still fund NASA. It just doesn't have enough money to do anything. Um, and yeah, the Dragon space program is what you were referring to earlier. The
Yes.
SpaceX by Dragon. Um, or I'm sorry, the Dragon by SpaceX. I got that backwards. Dragon's the actual spacecraft. Um, hasn't. I don't think it's actually had any manned flights yet. It was close, but then something happened. I don't know. A dog jumped into an afterburner and died, and the whole thing had to not go up. But I mean, motherfucker who runs Virgin Aircraft, Richard Branson, I think his name is.
That's the one.
You know, he's developing um high atmosphere subspace flight right now, which pretty much takes you up to the very edge of space and allows you to travel at incredibly high speeds, to where a theoretical trip from New York to London would take you a half an hour.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean that's one step closer to, making it into space, but it's really discouraging when you think that from, like 1905 when the Model T went into mass production, it took 50 years to get entire nations in the air. And in 60 years since then, we've made it to the moon 4 times and then stopped.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really depressing how, quickly we started and how slowly we're progressing. I mean, sooner or later we're going to have to figure out a way to get off the planet because it's just not going to be able to sustain us, whether it's population or usage. We're going to end up running dry in some aspect, and we're going to have to bounce. That goes without saying. But I mean, that's the problem with most of the governments on Earth right now, is that they're not proactive, they're reactive. So nothing's actually going to happen unless we need it to.
Right.
And I certainly hope that I'm dead by the time they need to, because it's going to be a clusterfuck of epic proportions that I don't feel like being around for. Because it's just going to probably make me kill myself if I watch the world fall apart because they can't figure out what the fuck they're supposed to do. I might just end it all right there and save myself the misery.
No.
But I mean, it's possible. I mean, dude, it's everyone's fucking fantasy to, have their own spaceship and, go flying around out there and travel from different areas to different areas and do what it will. But I mean, it's still science fiction, and it would still take you, with our current technology, years to get to Jupiter
Yeah, I mean, I'm not actually
and
talking
Jupiter's
about
moons.
uh, space travel in our lifetime. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think
that's.
that
I
that's
mean,
actually going to happen.
I do.
Aside from going to the moon and back, but I do have to. Well, okay, yeah, I can agree with you to some extent because companies have a hell of a lot more money to spend than the government does. So, like this guy from Virgin, he's going to be able to spend an assload more money on these flights. Plus, you're going to have movie stars that are going to be like, "Hey, yeah, that'd be great to fly on a $250,000 jet from London to New York. Fuck it, why not? Because I got the extra cash."
No.
But all things said, I was basically drawing all of this off of the hacking portion of it. You've got groups like Anonymous out there. There was another really big one that
Little sick.
yeah, that's the one. And I really feel like, and the thing that kills me is a lot of these people are probably 17, 18 years old, as high as maybe 40, uh, that do all the hacking and what have you. And that being said, eventually some shit is going to go down between hackers and the rest of the world. I mean, we're already seeing it right now. I mean, right
Hmm.
now, this day and age, our government is trying to shut down any downloading, any piracy, anything like that, and the hackers just won't have it. And they say, you know what? If we can't have it, you can't have your internet sites. Boom. And all the internet sites are brought down from the government. And you've got backers like Google and such that are trying to assist the local population in trying not to let the government run too much, especially in terms of the internet.
No.
Um, so again, I want to draw all that attention from the hacking portion of the Ouya, and I feel like the more and more that we allow this hacking, the more and more I foresee some sort of a future where um, there's going to be like a huge drawn out war between hackers and the governments. Um, and the thing is they won't see it coming because hackers are sharks, man. Hackers are sharks. They'll fuck you up in a heartbeat, and you won't ever see it coming unless it's anonymous, who they absolutely love to broadcast that they're about to hit somebody and then actually do it, and whoever it is wasn't able to stop them.
No.
So that was just a personal draw from the whole hacking portion of this segment. Is I sit down and I like to take a guess at what's going to happen in the future with what's going on right now. And if we don't blow each other up first, I think that we're heading towards um, a corporate run. Uh, yeah, I don't know the technical jargon for it, but all the all the companies are going to own everything, and if you don't work for yourself, you're pretty much fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely heading towards like a corporate city states pretty much existing worldwide. It could come down to that, or the populace could rise up as one and slay them. It can go either way. Um, or I mean, there's a possible third option, which is the governments get their heads out of their asses and put a stop to this nonsense, which they won't because they're getting
Way too much money.
fat loot
Yeah.
from said corporations. So they're not going to do shit
No.
until the corporations are running them. They don't even fucking realize it, and then it's really just like you said. It's up to you to do you by you, and you know, it, it's an unfortunate reality that people are too ignorant and too blind to see what's happening around them and try to take a stand against it. It's pretty much just signing yourself up for your own doom, pretty much.
No.
Um, but hey, we might get lucky and have a nuclear war, and you know, take take care of that
And
right
then
away.
Fallout happens.
Yeah, and then Fallout happens, and then
Mutant
we
dogs and guys with masks.
we really get to see what kind of men we are
Yeah,
in the post-apocalyptic wasteland of planet Earth. Um,
that's a
you
scary
know,
thought.
hey man, I for one would look forward to that, provided that I live through the actual nuclear war. Um, I think I would fare very well in a post-apocalyptic wasteland of your wits and savage instincts. I think I'd do all right.
The strong survive.
Yeah, I think I'd do all right. The zombie apocalypse, I don't know. A lot of people that think about zombie apocalypse is I don't know, because eventually you just get lonely, and then you let the zombies take you.
Yeah.
But we've been rambling for like 15 minutes because we ran out of shit to say about the Ouya because it doesn't exist yet. Um, but I mean, to wrap it up, the Ouya has a lot of promise. It has a lot of potential. It clearly has the money to realize said potential. So I mean, really, we just need to wait and see what the Ouya is going to do. It's got 23 days before that $5 million goes into someone's bank account. So in about a month, this ball will get rolling, and we'll see exactly what kind of threat they present to the status quo of gaming as it is.
All
And
right. And
yeah, I think that's about it.
yeah, I think we're gonna draw this to a close, ladies and gentlemen. It's been fun. It's been real, and we'll see you next time.
Peace, people.